Yes. Okay, so I'll start again. So the purpose for today's lab is that we want to generate our own public key certificate. Um, so the process goes like this, that in step number one, you have to generate the private key for yourself. And once you have generated the private key in step number two, you are going to use this private key to create a certificate signing request, CSR. Now, what it means is that once I have the private key, I'm going to generate my public key along with the information of my organization and name and so on and so forth. And then I will send this request to some kind of certification authority. Okay, let's just say that the certification authority is Google, for example, or VeriSign. Actually, VeriSign is also a certification authority that's signed and one of the most popular certification authority. So when I create my public key and then I generate a request of signing that, okay, can you please sign my public key so that people can start trusting me? So why do we go to the certification authority? Because we want other peoples to trust us, right? It's just like, for example, when you go for admission to the college, right? And you have a copy of your transcript. The college is not going to accept it. Why? They will say, okay, get it notarized from Ministry of Education, for example, or get it stamped from the, some authority whom we can trust. So they don't trust you, but they do trust a third party, uh, uh, you know, and that third party is going to verify all your information, and then they are going to put a stamp on your copy that you want to submit for the admissions, right? So the same idea is here. When I have a public key, nobody is going to trust that this public key is, we can trust it and we can start communicating. But when they see a stamp from VeriSign that, okay, VeriSign is the one who has signed his public key, it means they have verified all the information. There's nothing wrong with the public key. And then they will start communicating with you. Uh, Now, there is a little, okay, once the certification authority, they sign your public key, they will send it back to you, and then I can start, using this public key and send it to the people, and they can start communicating with me. The only difference in this scenario in our today's lab is that we are not sending our public key to the certification authority. We are going to create a private key. We are going to generate a certification signing request, but we are going to sign it ourselves. So we call it a self-signing, right? So we are not going to the third party, because when we go to the VeriSign, you have to, there's a process involved, there's fees involved and all that. You may have to pay something. But in this case, we just want to learn how we can create our own certificate and we can sign it by ourselves. Is this clear, guys? So the idea of the lab is clear now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's move on now. So the first thing that you want to check on your Kali Linux machine is that, do we have OpenSSL? So we are going to use OpenSSL um, to basically find out what is the current version of OpenSSL. Do we actually even have it? So if you have the latest version of Kali Linux, or whether the older version, I think it should be available by default. But just in case if it is not available, you can always just download it by using apt dash get open SSL. Okay. In case if you don't have, then you
I
can.
have an older version. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine. I
It's
mean, as long as,
OpenSSL
yeah, it doesn't matter.
1.1.
Yeah, it's okay. As long as you have the open SSL.
Okay.
And then you can also try to update it if you want to apt-get update. I don't know if the source links will basically, it will go and download. I really doubt, because this has been a, issue with the Kali, the older versions, they're not able to, unless you upgrade and update the whole operating system itself by using apt-get update first, and then you write, I'm not going to run it because it will take some time to update and upgrade. And then upgrade. So these are the two commands that you can use to upgrade your Kali Linux. Once you're done, I hope that you can start downloading the packages, whatever you want. Okay. All right, so now that I know that I have the OpenSSL, the first step, like I showed you in this picture, is that I want to create my private key first. Okay, so how do we do that? Um, so you're going to say open, sorry, SSL, and then gen RSA. Okay, another thing that you can do is if you want help regarding the OpenSSL, you can always go to help and you can see what are the options available. Although the weird thing about this is that they did not really give the description of all these options that are available in OpenSSL, but you know, you can actually guess or you can look on the internet, like gen RSA means to generate the RSA keys, for example. All right, and then you can also see the types of encryption algorithms and the hashing algorithms that are supported by the OpenSSL. So here we have the different versions of AES 128, 256, electronic codebook mode. So you don't really need to go into these details unless you have already studied cryptography. You might be knowing what is ECB, what is. But anyways, so we have the AES and I think there should be DES as well. Yeah, so you can see the data encryption standard as well. And then we have the hashing algorithms like MD5, SHA, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So coming back, I will just clear the screen. So OpenSSL gen RSA. And then what I want to do here is that I want to create a key, a private key, and I'm going to, so you can actually give any name that you like. So in my case, I'm just calling it Asad private key. Okay. So this is the name of the key, Asad priv key.pem, and this is the size of the key. So the size of the key is 2048 bits. It's up to you. I mean, what size you want, but the bigger the better. So I don't know if I can try to reduce the size and make it, let's just say 128 bits, but remember that 128 bits key can be brute forced easily nowadays with the kind of the the computational power that we have on the laptop. So 128-bit key is no longer secure. So in this case, I'm using double size, which is 2048 bits. And all you just need to do is press enter. So if you don't get any error message, it basically means that there has been a key generated by the OpenSSL, and the key name is asadprivkey.tem. If I just write ls, yeah.
What's the first command you did? The one where you can open the library of the SSL?
That was just open
The help
SSL version.
command.
Is it the help command?
So I'm not opening any library, or I'm just checking if I have OpenSSL and what is the current version of the OpenSSL.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you don't get it will give you a message saying that OpenSSL is not available, and then you can start downloading it. Okay.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
So now you can see that I have successfully done step number one, as I explained in the picture, that I have generated my private key. Now, if you want to look at the private key, like what is it? Obviously, it won't make sense because it's kind of a random key, but I can show you by using cat. It's privkey.pem. So this is how it looks like, the begin of the private key. So this is your 2048-bit key. And obviously it is supposed to be random. So is it clear now that we have done step number one in which we have generated the private key? Okay.
Yes, everything clear.
Okay. Now, what was step number two? The step number two was that once I have generated the private key, I want to use this private key to generate a certificate signing request. Okay, CSR. So what I'm going to do in the next step is that where is the command prompt? Okay, so now what I want to do is that I'm again starting with OpenSSL. I'm requesting a new certificate sign request, CSR, by using the key that I just created, which is asadprivkey.pem. And then I want to save this into asad sign request.csr. Again, the name of this file, you can keep your name for the sake of simplicity, so that you know that this is Asad's private key, this is Asad's signing request, CSR, and then all you need to do is press enter. When you press enter, it will ask you to provide certain information. So remember, we are talking about a real life scenario in which you open a small company and you want to do online business, and you want the customers that they can connect to you securely by using your certificate. So what you have to do is that you have to create the private key, and then you create this certificate signing request, and you will put the real information about your company. So for example, here, obviously, I'm just, putting a dummy information. So I will just say country name is SA, Saudi Arabia, the province, for example, Riyadh, city, I don't know if you have real, okay, organization name. So I'm just going to call it Coding Dojo, for example. And the organizational unit name, I'm just going to call it admin. And I can put my name here. And then the email address, for instance, I will say asad@codingdojo.com. Remember, again, you are generating a certificate signing request, which means you have to provide all these details to a third party like VeriSign or Google, who will then look into this information, verify it, and then put a stamp on it, okay? So you can put a challenge password. I'm just putting 2 for the time being. So once I'm done, you will see that there will be a file created, asad sign request.csr. So let me just show you here. So now I have completed 2 steps. One, I have generated my private key, and step number 2, I have created a certificate sign request. Let's go back to our picture again.
Mr. Asad, can you please go over the step number 2 just
Okay.
quickly so I can make sure?
Yeah, so this is step number 2. This is, you want me to explain it, or you want me to just show the command?
Just showing the command because I
Yeah.
got the...
Yeah, no worries. And by the way, I'm uploading all these videos on the YouTube channel. So even the lecture that you just...
Yeah, it kind of take a little long, so
Yeah, no worries. But
it's better now.
once I'm done, I will right away upload this video as well.
Okay, thank you.
So this is good for the channel as well, that you start viewing the video as well. Okay.
Mr. Asad, I have a question. This
Yeah.
information have to be correct, so the certificate generate, or
Yeah, in the real
random?
life scenario, if you're requesting the certification authority to sign yours, this has to be real. Right now, for this particular lab, you don't really need to put all this information correctly. It's kind of a dummy
Okay.
information, okay?
Okay.
All right, so let's move on. Okay, so this step is clear, right? So we are generating a certificate sign request
Yeah.
using our private key that I generated in step number 1. Okay, let's go back to the scenario. So I am done with step number 1, generating the private key. I'm done with step number 2, generating the certificate sign response. Now I have to send it to certification authority. But in our lab, there is no certification authority, which means I have to do this process by myself. So I'm going to sign my certificate by myself, okay? So let's see how we can do that. All right, so okay, so now I will start again. So this is Openssl, again, the tool that we're using. This is X509. I don't know if you have studied X509, but this is the certificate structure, X.509. So you can do a little bit research once you are done with the lab, that what is X.509, how does it look like, but I can show you. Did you discuss it in the class, guys?
What it is in the platform.
Yeah, it's called X.509. So it's basically a certificate structure. So let me just quickly show you.
Is the fixed number?
Sorry. Did anyone say something? Anyway, so what is X.509? It's basically the certificate structure. I just want to show you in a different way. Images, okay. Probably this one. So the structure X.509, it looks something like that, okay? And what it contains is the version, the serial number, the signature algorithm, who issued it, who was the issuer, what is the validity. So basically, in other words, it contains information about the certificate that is being created. So it will have the validity, okay, for how long the certificate is valid. So usually you will see that once the certificate expires, your browser starts giving you the message that, you know, the certificate is expired. Or sometimes you get the message that this is an invalid certificate. Sometimes you will get a message saying that this certificate cannot be trusted. So remember, if you are doing self-signing and you send it to, you know, your customers, the customers will always get a message saying that this certificate cannot be trusted, because it has to be actually signed by the certification authority. Anyways, coming back to the point that what is X.509, it's just the certificate standard. And this is the type of information that you will see. And I'm going to show you actually all this information inside the certificate that we just created, okay? Okay. So let me close it. Okay, now for how many days it is going to be valid. So you can always change this. So 365 days means that this certificate that we are going to sign by ourselves is going to be valid for 365 days. This is the certificate signed request, CSR. This is the private key that is being used to sign. So I'm signing my own certificate, so I'm using my private key. In case if it was being signed by VeriSign, so the VeriSign is going to use their private key to sign it. Yeah. Anybody has a question? Okay. And then I'm going to just save it as a certificate, for example, .pm, okay? So this is my certificate that is going to be generated at the end. Again, I will repeat the whole meaning of this command. So I'm telling the OpenSSL to generate an X.509 certificate, which is going to be valid for 365 days. The request that came to me is in this CSR file, which means my public key is here. Sign it with my own private key because I created a private key. So I'm signing it with my own private key. In reality, it doesn't happen like this because it has to be signed by the certification authority. And I'm telling the OpenSSL to save this into asset-certificate.pem file. Okay. Now, as you can see that it says that the certificate request of self-signature is okay, which means that I have successfully signed it. And if I write ls now, I have 3 files. 1, the private key that we did in step number 1. 2, the certificate sign request that I generated. And step number 3, this is the actual certificate that we wanted to generate by signing it by ourselves. Now, there is one more thing left, and then you will be done with this lab. That is that if I want to view, for example, that what are the contents in this? So I don't think that CAT will actually give me information about, yeah, so it only gives you the beginning of the certificate and the end of the certificate, but this is not what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to use this command to show you. Yeah, so now you can actually see that with this command, I actually want to see what is inside the certificate. So as you can see, as I was showing you the X.509 certificate structure, So it contains the version number, it contains the serial number, it contains what signature algorithm was used. So SHA-256 with RSA encryption was used. It contains the information that I entered, which is the company information and email address and everything. And then you can see here that this is my public key that is being signed by myself. So this is my public key. And so these are the signatures. I mean, again, like I said, because I signed it. So, and then the validity should also be there somewhere, that for how long this is going to be valid. So the validity, I put 365. So you can see here that it is valid for 1 year, starting from September 28 to September 28, 2023. So guys, this is the end of the lab. So what I want from you guys is that I want you to record, take the screenshot of the steps that you have done. Maybe you can explain a little bit, like for each step, what you did or what you, and by the way, most of you guys have done it in the previous submissions, that, you know, you gave a little bit of explanation, what you guys are doing and so on. If you guys have any questions, please ask me now, or.
So, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Do you want 3 screenshots? Because in the lab says only the information that showed up here in the certification. So I'm just wondering if you want all the steps
I
included.
think it will be better for you and for me as well. For you, it will be better that you have your own, let's say, lab that you created, and in future, maybe, you know, you may require it at some point. So I suggest you, you know, take the screenshot, because there are only 3 steps here. So or 4 steps, I guess. So just
Yeah.
try to include all the steps. It's better. Okay.
Okay. When I generated the certification, I did included the expiration date and other stuff in the command line. Is that okay? So I did not, you know, like enter it after that. So I just included there. Is that like the same?
You mean that?
So when you write
Yeah,
the
okay. So I got you. That for me, it actually prompted me to enter all this information, but you already entered it through a command line, right?
yeah, not all
Within
of
the
it.
command, within the command,
Yes,
I mean.
yeah, some of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, as long as, you know, because if you don't give this information, probably you might get some kind of error. So as long as you have done it, it's fine. Because eventually, when you are going to view your certificate, the information that you entered, whether I was prompted or whether you entered it within the command line, it's okay. It will be shown or displayed here.
Okay. The certification is long. So do you want only the first part, or do you want the whole thing? So I take like 2 or 3 screenshots until the end of it.
Let me just stop the recording and then we can